For the people who were born here, conservation was never a conscious choice, but rather a way of life. For these people, the forest's natural resources didn't have to be exploited, nor sold. But the world changed. People set out in search of black gold. They cut open the earth's crust, and oil flowed out. They carved into the vast jungle, and the landscape was forever changed. The contamination resulting from the exploitation of oil and minerals affects the environment and the populations that live in it. In the future, when Ecuador's natural resources fail to provide, the companies that exploit these riches will take their machines elsewhere. What will happen to the local people then? They, their future generations, and the fragile ecosystem they depend on will be left with these problems. The same destiny awaits those living in areas where renewable natural resources are indiscriminately exploited. With the stripping of a forest, its inhabitants are dislocated and plundered of their livelihood. The rains come less frequently and the land dries out. The designation of protected areas, such as reserves and national parks, is one step toward ensuring these resources for the future. However, groups of people have lived in these zones for centuries and have never seen it necessary to claim rights to this land. Laws of convention and tradition authorize them as legitimate owners. So, today, if these same people are forced to respect an invisible wall separating them from these nature sanctuaries, they forfeit their human right to live as they always have. In the city, the walls are not invisible. They are clear signs which mark one's private property. But in the forest, in the jungle, the land is open. Actual barriers that divide the land between neighbors and communities have never been established. Legalization of one's land requires that the boundaries be identified and acknowledged. But ancestral conflicts between ethnic groups and the invasion of territory by colonists complicate equitable distribution. Additionally, a lack of knowledge and understanding of the benefits the government grants to community organizations impedes these people from receiving just and equal treatment. The people of these communities, as remote as they live, are not free from government bureaucracy.
Pase.
Señor, buenos días.
Buenos días.
¿Cómo está, señor? Buenos días. Vengo de Comuna Nantí para regresar a la organización. Aquí tiene los papeles.
Verá. Aquí le falta el visto bueno del director provincial. Y le falta el reglamento.
¿Y qué hago?
Tiene que ir a un abogado. Él le va a ayudar a hacer todo el trámite.
¿Del abogado?
Donde un abogado.
Gracias, señor. Hasta luego.
For these people, a journey to the city presents many difficulties, confusion in strange surroundings, incomprehensible cultural differences, frustration in dealing with urban red tape, and expenses which they cannot afford. Recognizing these disadvantages, the Subir project, through its organization's strengthening component, fostered an innovative process called the formation of community paralegals. To help develop the rural organizations with whom Subir is working, the program proposed to train villagers in the basics of natural resource-related laws and advocacy. The program was offered to representatives from each of the non-government and community organizations involved in Subir's activities. Candidates for the paralegal program were selected after a rigorous process, taking into account their educational achievements, experiences, and more than anything, the awareness each applicant maintains in community life. Upon completion of these 8-month intensive training program, these community representatives, or paralegals, would have a new gain knowledge of how the law could work for their home communities, federations, and associations. With a better understanding of their rights and obligations toward the Ecuadorian government, they would know the legal mechanisms for channeling their organization's social demands. With a strengthened capacity for interacting with other organizations, they would offer essential assistance to their organization's administration, coordinating activities with local leaders, grassroots organizations, and the diverse government and non-government organizations in contact with the community. The organizations benefiting from this program are located within or around 3 protected areas in Ecuador: the Cotacachi-Cayapas Ecological Reserve, the Cayambe-Coca Ecological Reserve, and the Yasuní National Park. In order to most effectively address the concerns of these groups, the law selected for study covered 5 themes: legalization of organizations, legalization of land, protected areas, non-renewable natural resource exploitation, and community ecotourism. The Ecuadorian Lawyers Guild endorsed the proposal from the start, recognizing it as a prototype. Several government agencies contributed to the program as well, expounding on selected themes and facilitating visits to their government offices. In this way, the paralegals in training were acquainted with the administrative procedures required by these public agencies. The program was organized as a chain of 18 workshops. In September 1993, the first workshop took place, bringing together the 14 future paralegals from all over Ecuador. Quito served as headquarters for the 5 central workshops, since all of the institutions ultimately responsible for resolving legal conflicts are located in the capital. Participants shared their individual experiences, their insights into the conflicts particular to their geographic region, and together analyzed laws which many had previously not known existed. Laws that affect community life, laws that directly influence their organization's activities, laws that control the use of biological resources. Traditional education practices were adapted with alternative methods. The group's cultural diversity inspired the creation of puppets representing an array of indigenous inhabitants of Ecuador: Chachis, Cofanes, Shuares, Quichuas, as well as Afro-Ecuadorians and Mestizos, and giving equal importance to nature, a tree and a condor. Using these didactic materials and individual creativity, the laws came to life, making complicated legal concepts and judicial terms more understandable. Artistic exercises in collage, painting, and allegorical maps inspired participants to critically confront the problems that challenged their organizations. Each central workshop was reproduced in a series of regional workshops, which took place in the paralegals' home communities, literally taking the law to the people. Direct contact with the villagers and their environment legitimized the local problems under scrutiny, giving community leaders and active members the opportunity to participate and share their points of view. The paralegals in training put their knowledge to the test, acting as facilitators for their peers and further disseminating the information and laws analyzed in the central workshops. Additionally, regional Subir offices participated and contributed by coordinating activities in Borbón, Ibarra, Borja, and Coca. A certified diploma granted by the Ecuadorian Lawyers Guild was awarded to each paralegal upon completion of the program. The group gathered for a final evaluation guided by a legal consultant from the National Institute of Natural Areas and Wildlife. The now paralegals proved themselves worthy of their new title, demonstrating not just an understanding of the legal text, but more importantly, a mastery of the elements necessary in legal analysis of the laws which will guide the resolution of their community's problems. The Community Paralegals program is also a major initiative in its potential cultural impact, with the formation of paralegals from many of Ecuador's distinct zones and ethnic groups, each group affected by diverse social environmental conflicts. Now the problems analyzed by the paralegals have concrete solutions for them and their organizations, and the laws evaluated have served as a basis. For comprehending the traditional law of each ethnic group with which Subir is working, thereby allowing the project to incorporate these cultures more effectively in the conservation of Ecuador's natural resources. For analyzing land tenure disputes between Chachi Indians and Afro-Ecuadorians, and do not meet the requirements established by the Ministry of Agriculture in order to legalize themselves as a community. For analyzing land tenure disputes between Chachi Indians and Afro-Ecuadorians, thus paralegals in the area had proposed an accord to the Ecuadorian Institute for Colonization and Agrarian Reform. For clarifying the legal rights of long-settled Afro-Ecuadorian groups, and accordingly extend the law, which today is only applied to indigenous groups. For proposing alternatives to the National Protected Area and Wildlife Institute so that they will recognize and permit the legalization of organizations by traditional settlements living within the limits of protected areas, such as the communities of Sinangue and Oyacachi, so that paralegals can establish management agreements between the government and communities situated within a protected area, thus granting a guarantee of land tenure. So that the paralegals can draw up an official complaint and present it before the appropriate authorities when the health of human beings or the environment is affected by mining or oil drilling activities. For formulating a proposal that permits rural community organizations to offer tourism as an additional economically sustainable activity, obtaining the necessary permits from both INEFAN and the Ecuadorian Tourism Organization. The first community paralegal network has been created, allowing these trained community delegates to collaborate with Subir's regional offices in order to confront, interpret, and resolve the legal problems particular to their organizations. A series of popular education pamphlets, The Paralegal, will maximize the propagation of information collected through this cutting-edge program. With illustrations and simple terminology, they present each of the 5 topics analyzed in the workshops, enabling the paralegals to carry, like a tool in their hand, an aid for teaching what they know.
Señor, buenos días.
Buenos días.
¿Cómo está, señor? Buenos días. Vengo de la comuna Nantí para legalizar la organización, señor. Hace tiempo que viene para legalizar la comuna.
¿Tiene todos los papeles?
Lo tengo, señor, aquí tiene.
¿Quién le ayudó a hacer? ¿Qué abogado le ayudó?
Ninguno. Yo hice mi propia comuna.
En la propia comuna. Verá, aquí tiene un pequeño problema, que para que sea legalizada necesita 50 familias. Solo le falta ese dato, tiene que arreglar y todo está en orden.
Mira, señor, nosotros tenemos en nuestra comuna solo 40 jefes de familia. También hemos revisado en la ley de comunas que dice 50 habitantes y no jefes de familia, señor.
Verá, yo conozco bien la ley. Lo que pasa es que nosotros toda la vida hemos hecho así. Son 50 familias.
Para quedarnos claro, tú y yo, señor, vamos a revisar la ley de organización y régimen de las comunas que dice en su artículo 5, requisito para constituir una comuna. Para poder constituir una comuna es indispensable que el número de habitantes que radiquen habitualmente en ella sea no menor de 50. Dice habitantes y no es de familia, señor.
Verá, está bien. Pero nosotros siempre hemos hecho con 50 familias.
Pero, señor, la ley está hecha por el Estado y las que no cumplen son ustedes que están violando. ¿Quién va a cumplir la ley, señor?
Verá. Si algo se habló de eso, espérese. Ya me acordé. Lo que pasa es que antes hubo muchos problemas con este artículo y ya me acordé que sí, no, o sea, llegamos a eso y entonces resulta que ya tiene todo ya está en regla.
Ya.
Lo único que usted tiene que hacer es que venirse en 15 días y ya está firmado el acuerdo ministerial.
En 15 días, señor.
En 15 días.
Confío en tu palabra, señor.
Sí, en 15 días ya está listo el acuerdo ministerial.
A los 15 días vuelvo a retirar ese documento.
Sí, está bien.
Hasta luego,
Pase.
señor.